I'm Mike.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Mehrshad.
And this is The Big N. Today on the show, we're going to discuss everyone's impressions on the Nintendo Switch now that we've had a week to fully gather our thoughts and discuss new details that have emerged. Nintendo issued their most recent financial report, so we're going to examine that. Finally, today we're going to dive into our retro review of Majora's Mask, both looking at the N64 and 3DS version. And we'll discuss that and look at why the game still inspires people today and why it still stands out in the series. But today we'd like to introduce our guest, Mehrshad. How are you doing, Mehrshad?
Hi, how are you guys? So I got into Nintendo back from the N64. I remember the day I came home from my friend's house and he said he had a new game called Super Smash Bros. All I knew was that Pikachu was in the game, and when he introduced me to it, I became addicted. I found out who Link was, and I discovered that he had a game series, and then that became my life. Legend of Zelda is my favorite series, and it's the reason I keep buying Nintendo products, and it's the reason I keep giving them so much of my money.
So that's interesting. Smash Bros. Was actually your first Nintendo game, or introduction to Nintendo.
Yep.
Well, that's a perfect game to start at in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what's your favorite Zelda game?
My favorite is Ocarina of Time because of the connection that I made with it. It's not the best one, and I think the games that preceded it are better, and they do better things, but I have a deep attachment to that game. It's where I started, and I think most people's first Zelda is generally their favorites because it's the first they connect to.
Yeah, my brother's favorite Zelda game is also Ocarina of Time. Nathan? Wait.
Mine's Majora's Mask.
No, Majora. Oh, well, there we go.
And again, that's the first one I really played. I remember as a kid. So there you go.
Yeah, it's funny because I remember at least Majora's Mask that we never owned a copy until way later. I want to say like 10 years later, and I think we originally got it from. I think my brother originally played it through Collector's Edition from GameCube. Yeah. And then I think he got an N64 version, but then he got it on 3DS, and of course, Zelda fans have to buy 4 copies of the game because that's what Nintendo does. Is keep releasing games and we keep buying them. That's how they survive as a company. Yeah. But can't always go backwards and play games, right? Because the Switch doesn't have backwards compatibility. It's been confirmed.
Maybe if they slash the price of the virtual console games by half, they might sell a lot more.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? They're actually not that badly priced.
They're not badly priced, but at the same time, like you can get some games out there for like $4.
Yeah, I know on Steam, but are you gonna say $10 is a lot of money for like a 50-hour game?
Yeah, it is. It's good. It's a good amount, but like I said, people just balk at that at a digital game that's over $5.
Well, I don't think it's that bad, but at least we know now, and we know some other information because Nintendo recently announced on January 12th that there's going to be a Nintendo Direct dedicated to the Switch. So we can stop, thinking about it because we won't know anything now for another 2 months. We can just sit and talk about what we know. And in 2 months, we at least on this show, we'll be gathering back here and have a full analysis dedicated to the reveal. And hopefully we'll get more news on the hardware and the software. But Nathan, I know they released a few details if you want to go over some of them.
Sure. So since the Switch got announced, Nintendo has since said a few things about it. So there'll be no backwards compatibility for the Switch. I think we all kind of guessed that was going to be the case, even though the Switch uses cartridges. Those cartridges, if you look really closely, are really, really thick, and that port doesn't really look like it would fit 3DS games. So unless this is a dock somehow on there, it wouldn't attached to the dock of the Switch. There's probably no way you're gonna have any backwards compatibility whatsoever. And Nintendo actually, I think they tweeted or put on Facebook, basically saying that the Switch news has been announcement has been positive, especially on YouTube, where I think it has 95% positive reviews. So the likes, I guess.
Yeah, people seem pretty positive. I mean, complete opposite of the Wii U.
Yeah.
Where I guess one of the people were negative at first, but they weren't exactly glamored with the Wii U. Oh boy, next system.
Yeah, not to mention, still people didn't even know that the Wii U came out either. I remember I was working on the Wii U launch, and the only people who seem to really know about were Nintendo people.
Yeah. And the Switch is also their most watched trailer now, so...
This is over 17 million views now at this point.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of the Switch?
I think it's an interesting...
Did you buy the Wii U?
I did buy the Wii U. Okay. I bought it, I think, 3 years later. I got it as a Christmas present, and I got it the day after I came home from Nathan's house, and I sat on my bed.
Oh, okay.
I was extremely excited, because
nice.
I had Super Smash Bros. And I bought it the day of the tournament at my EB Games, and I didn't even have the Wii U.
Nice. Okay.
So when I got it, I was extremely excited, and I was happy because I was finally going to be able to play Breath of the Wild until it got delayed.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems cool. It's interesting that it's using cartridges. I think that's going to cut down on load times. It might cut down on costs, and it's unfortunate there's no backwards compatibility. But I mean, I wasn't expecting it. If it's going to be portable, there's no way there's going to be able to run CDs.
Mm-hmm. And if it's deportable, try to force people to not bring as much stuff as
Exactly.
the wires and the games and everything. Now just one box and that's it.
Yeah.
Just the one tablet, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Which is much more portable, much easier for bringing around. As they did in the video, like going to basketball games apparently, because we know those are the major people are gonna play it.
Bring it to someone's roof party.
Yeah. So I mean, and then certainly other companies have commented on the Switch. I mean, comments are one thing. We'll see later on if companies deliver actual games.
Yeah.
But I think, at least judging from some early press, that I think publishers are more interested in this and perhaps not turned off as the Wii U, where they had to integrate the screen and the hardware as part of the game. Like this one, it really does seem like it's just going to be kind of straight games, period.
Yeah, it's just going to be the screen. There's no like Wii U dual screen thing. This is just basically whenever you take the Switch out of the dock, it automatically moves straight to the handheld or the tablet.
Mm-hmm. I really hope it's like confirmed, like 100% that it's split screen.
Seamless. Yeah.
Good, because
I hope there's nothing like that. That'd be really bad.
Yeah,
or play the Wii U again.
Some kind of motion control still. Like let's cut it all. All right.
They have confirmed also that it is a touchscreen. They never showed like it actually being a touchscreen in the trailer at all. But it is so they're saying it is one.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's much of an issue for tablet these days. I think it has to be touchscreen if you use it as a tablet. So that's not really a big surprise.
Mm-hmm. And I think it'd be nice to I'll pitch again once again. I hope they use amiibos in a nice way and show that in the video in 2 months, that some kind of use of amiibos, because they said they're not dead and they were in the video.
Yeah, if you saw the bottom on the left of the Switch controller, there is the NFC.
Oh, okay.
On the bottom there, so
I guess we'll see. We also had Nintendo recently go through their financial report. Dire in some states. The Wii U kind of being on life support and not providing any capital for Nintendo. But I think in some ways things are looking up. Some things are looking down.
Yeah, so they announced the numbers since 2010. Their hardware sales have drastically decreased, which is not actually that surprising because in 2010 was the height of the Wii and DS life. So that's not really surprising the hardware sales have gone down since then. But over the last year, especially this last year, it's been terrible. But given they've also had really terrible performances with their video games. Like we had a few Wii U games that were actually good, and then there's a bunch of shovelware, like Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. I'm still really cheesed about that game.
Star Fox Zero probably sold only 3 copies. And
I think
we bought 2 of them, so don't know who the third person was.
Let's see. I think Fire Emblem Fates was the only game that kind of boosted their sales in any kind of way.
Pokemon, Mega Sapphire.
Yeah, I guess that was a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just July and August. They didn't mention that they basically called the Pokemon Go effect. Because basically after Pokemon Go came out, 3DS sales went skyrocketed basically, and so did Pokemon sales in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, one thing I think sort of Nintendo talked about in the briefing, which we discussed in the show, was how we think these mobile games are going to help them sell hardware and some software. Like they are it was recently announced that Sun and Moon is the biggest pre-order in Nintendo's history. Yeah, and it's like one of the most downloaded demos I think for Nintendo. So I think clearly showing that by promoting the Pokemon brand in different ways, they're gonna get software sales, and I wouldn't be surprised with Super Mario Run. I think they also confirmed that Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing are coming out for March 27th.
They said before March.
Yeah, so to boost other properties.
Yeah, we'll see how much Fire Emblem sales or Animal Crossing sales go up after those games release on mobile. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, and I think we talked about this before, that if there was a secret Fire Emblem or Animal Crossing game for the Switch to come out, which is when those games come out, because
that'd be crazy if they released another Fire Emblem game in 2017. That'd be crazy because they just finished Fates.
Yeah. Well, I just think it'd be good, good marketing and good trying to interconnectivity, kind of see the mobile can boost the sales of one of those titles, or at least within next year. I think I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So that's another thing Nintendo's been looking at, and certainly, Nintendo has been trying to think about kind of how to expand their brand, and I think the Switch, they're talking about how like there's opportunities there for sort of expanding their brand and kind of becoming competitive again and becoming, I guess, more as a known entity for all gamers and start trying to perhaps take a step back from the casual gamers.
Yeah, because what Nintendo's done for years, and we've all known this, they prefer to rely on word of mouth to do advertising. And that over the past 5 years, that's been pretty much proven that you can't do that anymore. You can't just rely on word of mouth.
Yeah, we need some, commercials.
Yeah, you need some commercials. You need some actual advertising. You need to actually get your brand name out there for people to recognize who you are.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, how many commercials do you see for Nintendo games? Like, once every 2 years, maybe Zelda, maybe a Pokemon or something will get a commercial.
Maybe they get a Yokai Watch commercial. That's all I've seen recently.
Or even with Pokemon, all those YouTube videos are putting up. Like, Nintendo, that's a good effort they're doing. Like, they're really promoting it, and it's a great thing. And I don't see other franchises getting that. Like, you could do, you could do that to, boost your property and boost sales. So that's something I guess Nintendo will have to change when, starting to promote the Switch.
One interesting thing that I've actually been doing is they jumped on the YouTube market. So popular YouTubers like John Khalil, Gerard, the completionist, and Peanut Butter Gamer and Pro Jared, Nintendo has invited these people over during their E3 presses, and they've gotten to play their games, and they've gotten to talk positively about them on their channel. And these are very popular YouTube channels, so that's one really good way of promoting to the young kids, because YouTube is it's huge. It's like a Hollywood level like money, and this is one of the best ways to promote your thing is have people that people trust talk about them, and that's one really, really good way in our current economy to get your word out.
Well, another good way to get word out is make a direct sequel to one of the best rated games and best selling games of all time, and that's how we got Majora's Mask. And Majora's Mask was first released in 2000 for the N64, and it was re-released just recently in 2015 for the 3DS. For many fans, Majora's Mask is sort of considered the dark horse of this series. It has many unique elements and gameplay features that haven't necessarily been copied or sort of emulated yet in other Zelda games. So today we're going to do a retro review of Majora's Mask, a game that kind of still inspires fans today, and I think really stands out among most of the Zelda games as something that is unique and I think twisted with some of the conventions, and especially when you compare it to Ocarina of Time, which it's sort of direct sequel and uses most of the assets of that game. They're in some ways quite opposite games, and especially if you want to start talking about the story and the characters. Mehrshad, you want to?
Sure, Mike. So I like what you said about the dark horse, because I think Majora's Mask is this beautiful artistic thing where you have 3 days to stop the moon from crashing into the earth, or the world of Termina, where you're currently at, which may or may not be an alternate universe. And you have the ability of your ocarina to reverse time to the first day, and you have all these NPCs that have their own schedule that you can communicate with, and you get different masks from, and it's a surreal experience. It's so unique, and it's so somber, and it's not directly dark. It has the subtlety of darkness, which just makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah, just disturbing. That's
disturbing, right?
Yeah.
In some ways, it's the most low-key Zelda story of all of them, because it's not you're not saving the world in a way. Like, you are stopping the moon from coming down, which would destroy the Earth if the moon ever came down. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like go fight go kill Ganondorf because it's kind of like the moon's crashing. You know what I mean? It's definitely a story kind of unique in that sense.
Yeah, you're not saving it from some kind of evil entity looking to take over the world. You're just saving this particular world from destruction.
It's not the typical hero's journey kind of thing that the Zelda series typically is.
Yeah.
And I think you spoke a good point about the story. Like, there is a certain tone in Majora's Mask. I think part of it has to do with like that kind of eerie music, and some of the characters are very eccentric in Majora's Mask.
Yes.
And there is, as you said, I think you kind of caught it well, it's sort of a sense of dread. And part of it is like, the moon is falling, so to kill everyone. But just many characters are very like kind of depressing or sad, or something wrong with them. And it's not like something like, say, Wind Waker, for example, which with bright colors, like gotta get that nice mood and it's colorful. But Majora's Mask, I would say, kind of the complete opposite. It's kind of bleak. Despite again kind of that being in sort of N64 style graphics and all that. But you can kind of feel the bleakness from like playing the game, I would say.
And generally, this game garners the most theories in terms of depression and is it Link dying and the 7 stages of coming to terms, and you have to like heal the sorrow of the dead characters, which you take their mask and become them, and it's just so.
It's just. I don't know, you said nailed it with depressing. I think that's basically this is the tone that is just really dark. That's basically what I like to think of it as.
Yeah, and I think part of it has to do in some ways with the gameplay, which is where I think Majora's Mask is still unique in this series, because it's the only Zelda game where you can go back to dungeons and redo things, and you have to redo dungeons in Majora's Mask, or you have to beat the boss again to activate certain post temple activities. And it's also there only has 4 main temples in Majora's Mask, but relatively speaking, compared to other Zelda games, are quite short. Yeah. And really, most of the game is side quests and finding things and exploring. In fact, very little of the game is sort of, I would say, dungeon based. Yeah. And sometimes there's very little story in Majora's Mask. Like, really, there's dungeons, right? You do things, but it's not. There is no kind of grand scheme, kind of like sort of Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess or anything like that. It's sometimes you're just kind of doing these dungeons, and oh look, the Majora is popping up once in a while. The Skull Kid is, but like most of the time, you're just kind of doing your own thing and interacting with the people in the world.
That's probably one thing I like most about Majora's Mask, and why it's probably my favorite Zelda game, is just because you're able to fully flesh out all the characters in it. So every character feels kind of unique, and kind of they just have their own story. Like, you get really invested, especially with like some of the longer side quests, like with Cafe and Anju, which is the 3-day side quest you have to do the whole thing the whole way through, and it ends up being just really rewarding, and just being able to be the good Samaritan.
Something that I think Majora's Mask did better than any other Zelda game, which I'm surprised none other followed, was traversing. Where in Ocarina of Time you rolled and backflipped to get around quickly. In Majora's Mask, you have the Goron mask when you want to roll around. You have the Zora mask when you want to like go underwater and swim. And no other game, they follow that. You're back to rolling, which is interesting because Skyward Sword had the stamina bar, but it only lasted so long. Yeah. And there's so much more variety. You have the roll. You have every character has their own element. Every mask has its own ups and downs. Yeah. So I'm hoping something like that does return in Breath of the Wild. Yeah. But this is so unique that I wish
yeah, and it wasn't. It was fun. Like, a lot of games you hate trekking from one place to the next, but it was fun to swim as the Zora and like go do like dives and go up in the water, down, and the Goron, you said going down the mountain was fun. Even the DQ can kind of slide quickly, whereas a lot of games now you just click on a map and warp because you don't want to do that, or running Epona, which right, Twilight Princess was fun too. But yeah, I agree. Like traversing the game is definitely it's unique. And another thing I was thinking of was the element of time. And like not all games have a theme. Like they have time, or Twilight Princess you have the dual world, or in Skyward Sword you have like the land and sea and whatnot, right? Light and air. Sorry. And but then I was thinking like that time pressure. And this is the only Zelda game I really think you have a time pressure. You have to complete these events within a certain time. Yeah. And I would say it's in some ways it's the only real stressful Zelda game. You have 3 days, and especially if you want to beat, like you mentioned, the Anju side, like the wedding mask. You have to complete these events in a certain amount of time. Yeah. Or even worse, I remember you have to be at a temple, get all 15 fairies within a temple if you want to get all MS. Like that was bloody stressful sometimes. Like especially if you're first time playing and
you don't know what some of those fairies are.
I was gonna say this is the only one of the few Zelda games where you kind of need a guidebook, because there's so many things in there that they really give you zero clues, or it's not obvious. Like I remember when my brother was playing and just like trying some of those fairies, it was tough. Like you were down to the 3rd day, you're like, come on, I need to fight these fairies because then I have to go to the owl's actually saved so I can get the mask. Like it's hard, it was tough. But I like that time pressure. Like Zelda games, again, it's sort of unique to Majora's Mask. I doubt they'll ever bring that back again, but I think it's interesting to play Zelda game where you're under that time restraint. You have to, beat enemies fast. You have to travel fast. You have to, collect things quickly. So that was an interesting element. Annoying in a lot of ways, but it was interesting. Obviously you have to lose all your money. You lost all your items. You have to go and collect everything again, right? Because you lost all your arrows and stuff, right? Yeah. So that was another sort of interesting element. And you both sort of mentioned, beforehand we're talking, and sort of like the community service element of Majora's Mask. You're always helping people in Zelda games. Like that's half the game is, my dog's sad. Go fix it, I need to go get this girl. Go help me get her. Right? Majora's Mask, like most of the game is community service.
Yeah, that's fun, especially when you play as Child Link, so you're not playing as Adult Link at all. It feels more just being as a good kid who's just going around helping the townspeople. And the thing about the Majora's Mask, you have to go and do that because they give you a lot of they give out the masks or pieces of heart that are just essential for making the game easier.
Yeah, I mean, those masks, though, I mean, some of them, they were so strange. I mean, some of them were really useless. You know,
Yeah.
they
Some
got
of them
you
were totally useless.
one heart or one this, but I mean, it was always sort of strange about Majora's Mask was, you know, you get all these hearts. In fact, a lot of the items, too. I always remember Majora's Mask, you get, like, the fire arrows, ice arrows, and, well, I think there's better than Ocarina of Time, where those items were just kind of bonuses. In Majora's Mask, you do use them a bit more, but, because, you know, mostly use your Zora, the Goron, the Deku as transformations as your main powers. But it's interesting, and, in Majora's Mask, all these, like, the mask, and, you know, kind of figure out what they can be used for, and, you know, what quests they use for. It was interesting, like, as a player, you were in some ways given free hand, and you kind of had all these options to kind of figure out, you know, where does it fit in the puzzle? Because you had to use all these masks to get a lot of certain things.
Yeah. So basically, another thing I want to talk about, because you mentioned how sometimes the game gave you zero clues as to what to do. That's the one thing the 3DS version actually changed. So the 3DS version, if you remember the Bomber Kids, if you talk to them as Human Link in the 3DS version, they'll give you hints. They'll fill in part of your Bomber's notebook. They'll basically say, like, hey, I heard a rumor that if you get, like, a good score on this Archer minigame, you get something. Or if you talk to the girls at Goron, she'll give you a special prize if you know that we're doing the minigame in town. So that's one thing that 3DS version is actually a bit different. So they give you ideas of what to do.
Okay.
Which is something interesting that you said about the I noticed that both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, they have the stone temples. You kind of crawl into the gossip stones and they kind of help you.
Yeah.
For me personally, since I had experience, I didn't need them, but I think it's for people that are interested in the series.
I forgot about that.
Because Zelda doesn't hold your hand as much, especially the old ones.
Yeah.
With Majora's Mask, if you were lost, sometimes you kind of had to find your way around on your own.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for me personally, I'm stupidly prideful, so I don't like to use guides. So when I had to get the fairies, I especially the Great Bay Temple, I went back to that
the Great Bay
4 or 5 times.
I think the Stone Temple's worse, personally.
The Stone Temple is more annoying, but the Great Bay Temple is just so
water.
confusing.
It's always water zones. The water temple's always the worst. Every time.
So yeah, I forgot about that. So in Majora's Mask, there's another thing to add it in for 3DS version was if you go back to where the Happy Mask Salesman is in the clock tower, there's a gossip stone which will give you hints of what to do through the game. So you just crawl inside, like Link crawls inside, and the game shows you the vision of what you should be doing.
And we also mentioned that the boss fights have changed this time around. I mean, I think the boss fights are pretty boring in Majora's Mask. I mean, it's cool using your powers, but they weren't like the most exciting. They're kind of like gimmicky, but they were changed. Like some of them were adjusted quite rapidly. Like I know in the first temple versus Odawa, they changed it so you can actually use the Deku.
Yeah.
Because then in the original you did not want to use the DQ. In fact, it was bad. Yeah. But originally kind of made it so you make use of that.
Yeah. So they changed. I think all the boss fights are changed in some kind of way.
I remember my brother saying they're more difficult actually.
Yeah,
in the remake.
Because in Dalwood, like you mentioned, you basically in the original game you just hit him around with your sword and do whatever you want with him. But in this game, he'll block. He'll actually use his shield that he has. Like in the original game, his shield is basically just a decoration. But in this game, he'll actually use it to block attacks. So you have to actually come from above and hit him with the Deku Net, with the Deku. So that way he'll stun him and then you can do damage to him. And now in this, they've also added a new mechanic where once you stun a boss, an eye will appear on the boss, and you hit the eye in order to take out the boss. Typical Nintendo stuff where it's like, here's the obvious weak point.
Yeah.
I wonder what to hit.
But still, one of my favorite boss fights, still one in my favorite Zelda series, is the goat fight. The goat fight was
just fun.
Yeah, the goat fight was just fun. I love doing. I could just go back to Snowhead and just beat that boss whenever I feel like it. It's just so much fun.
Now, something that was really interesting about one of the boss fights is Twin Mold.
The giant mask.
And I don't know if you could do this before, but in the 3DS version, when you were Adult Link and you put the mask on, you could get Twin Mold in a headlock. And
you can't do that.
You cannot do that in N64. Yeah.
That was a huge shock. I'm like, did I just tackle him down as Young Link and crush his neck and flip him over? I don't know why they added it, but I mean that's an awesome addition.
And Majora's Mask has a lot of fun things like that. Just it's sort of like I mean, I think we should say. I mean, spoilers if you haven't played Majora's Mask. I guess skip ahead, but the big secret or the most awesome part of Majora's Mask was when you got all the masks, went to the end of the game, sold them all, you get the Fierce Deities mask.
Oh, the Fierce Deities.
I feel like we should give it some credit. It's Link kind of transform. I guess you could say adult Link and gets sort of demonic powers, so to speak.
Yeah.
So then he can, you beat the final boss as a joke, as Fierce Deity.
You just press V.
Yep. Sword beam, get the sword beams, and Link has I think one of the coolest outfits ever with the Fierce Deity.
Yeah.
And so I mean, interesting in Hyrule Warriors, that was one of the cool things. One of the powerful moves is Link turns a Fierce Deity Link.
Yeah.
So I mean that's kind of neat. But that was always one of the neatest things I remember Majora's Mask. I remember his Fierce Deity Link.
Yeah, and it hasn't
Even
appeared again
Smash
since,
finally made it a costume. After
Yeah.
people asked for so many times.
Because Fierce Deity Mask is just awesome. I wish it would be back in more games, but at the same time, it's also really OP. Even though that was a reward for basically getting everything in the game.
It was way broken.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun to go back to the old bosses of Go with Fierce Deity Link because you just kill them.
You go to a dollway and press B twice, and you die.
Yeah, and I think so. Majora's Mask I think kind of holds up in that way. Like it's sort of the world we were talking about, and like how different things and the tone I think really does stand out. But it's funny. One thing you realize is like how they reuse assets of Ocarina of Time. It does look better. I remember so graphically there's certain things that they did improve on. I think like certain like the Pixar thing they did improve on that because this was the end of N64 cycle was 2000. So I think they kind of maximized as much as they could out of that. But it's funny how it just it's almost all Ocarina of Time assets. Just it looks a bit better.
I think probably reason might have been if you had the expansion pack for the 64, that might have been why it might have looked better. I'm not 100% sure on that, but
it did look better with the expansion pack. I think we did have one. So
yeah.
But I mean, also I'll say. But I remember, they did reuse some of the songs and music from Ocarina of Time, but they also did have a lot of its own music. I remember, like, it was quite haunting, the Majora's Mask score. Like the Giant song was kind of sad, and, especially, actually, I'll just ask, I'm curious, did you guys ever let the moon fall on the town?
Yeah.
I didn't do it, but I remember my dad playing it, and I think it was the first time we were trying to figure out how to beat Skull Kid for the first time, because we had no idea what to do. I think my dad forgot to get the magic meter. So we were just kind of just trying to hit Skull Kid, but he can't because he's flying. Yeah. So the moon just crashed and then the game was then we had to start over.
There is something I remember haunting about that. Like I remember let's let the moon crash and watching it get closer and closer and the town's like we're all gonna die. Like
Yeah.
It's all the games are usually kind of like you don't really kind of see that or hear that, but it's funny when Majora's Mask YouTube. That's the only Zelda game I feel like you can kind of feel that tension. Like oh my god, we're all gonna die. This moon is gonna kill us. And I feel like that's another thing. People always be like, did you let the moon crash? Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think there's another Zelda game kind of had that sort of tension like that.
Yeah, not really.
As an element.
I don't think another game would have gotten away with that either. I don't think if that game was made today, I don't think they would have had that. They might just cut to black, but before they had the fire, and then Link kind of gets swept away with the explosion. And you're like, oh my god, did my Zelda game just show me everyone dying?
Yeah, I think that's part of
Rated E for everyone.
Yeah. But I think that's part of like what the legacy of Majora's Mask is. I think that's why I sort of called it the intro as sort of a dark horse because there are no certain set of fans who think Majora's Mask is the best Zelda game. Yeah, I wouldn't say the majority, but there's certain contingents of people who think. There's probably a contingent for every Zelda game, but I know Majora's Mask has a particular group of loyal fans who think
I'm one of them.
Yeah, it's the best game in the series, and it in some ways it did break with a lot of the conventions. It's like the strange ways with the temple, going back to temples, doing things again, and collecting the mask and kind of being much more quest driven in a way than just kind of going through temple after temple after temple. Because the only thing you could really say about something like an Ocarina of Time or Twilight Princess is that they are very go to temple, beat temple, go to temple, beat temple, rinse and repeat. There's no real. Whereas Majora's Mask, you beat a temple, okay, go have fun in the world, and what's changed now, go explore and
using your powers to find out what you can do in the world now.
So I think that's one thing. I think Majora's Mask, part of its legacy, and I think we were both talking about the tone really. I think we haven't really got it. Twilight Princess had a bit of it, but I feel like that's more because of Twilight Princess. It's light and shadow world, but I do feel like Majora's Mask had a more authentic, kind of a darker, different tone, and maybe Breath of the Wild will get some of that back.
Maybe
there was that one mountain in the distance in the trailer for Breath of the Wild, which is the mountain surrounded by looks like the shadow from Twilight Princess.
No, okay. I know there's a Skull Mountain also they confirmed from how
there's not really Skull Mountain. It's more like it's just this one part of the game where there's a skull, and then they showed in some of the gameplay shows for E3.
Because the original Zelda had this skull, right?
Yeah.
So
you're right about Twilight Princess though, since it is a sequel, it's technically a sequel in the timeline. It does borrow some of the elements, but I think Majora is it's more subtle, which I think makes it more kind of nerve-wracking and scary.
Yeah. Well, even when you think of, the boss of Majora's Mask, it's not Ganondorf. It's just this really screwed up kind of lonely kid who gets possessed by this evil spirit, and it's there hasn't really been a villain like that in a Zelda game since, and I doubt there ever will be because Ganondorf's Bowser, so never dies.
Majora's still one of the most disturbing bosses I think I've ever seen in a game.
Very disturbing.
Yeah.
I think you can still relate to him too, because he's just a kid who he wants friends, and he lets the darkness of the mask take over, and he does evil things. But you can't totally hate him for that because he's just alone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it's as brilliant relating to the enemy in a Zelda game. We've never done that before, Majora.
Mm-hmm.
Even I remember, I'll just say, thinking of Tattle, like your fairy. It's funny because I remember Majora's Mask has some, the dialogue is a bit sharper than most Zelda games. Like, Tattle's very sarcastic. I always remember, when you see Ocarina of Time and he's like, what, you don't know what an Octorok is? But just, I remember, a lot of the NPCs, they're kind of more sarcastic and I think kind of making vague references to sort of issues and themes that, not really going to be in a Zelda game. Yeah. And I think the writing was particularly sharp for Majora's Mask. Or at least, I think maybe because it's a direct sequel, or maybe because at the end of the cycle they said, what, we can go a bit beyond now. We did everything we had at Ocarina of Time. Let's do the screwed up one. We made the one that changed. Now let's have fun and kind of do something different.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Majora's Mask definitely has that tone. Not like any other Zelda game kind of matches that tone, or even with the dialogue. I mean, Zelda games I feel like are mostly positive. It's kind of like go defeat the evil, whereas Majora's Mask, you have that film of dread that kind of all throughout the game.
Yeah.
Even the ending is kind of like that too. You're just like, okay, I'm just gonna go on the horse, and no grand finale, no you get Zelda or
basically Link just goes back on his journey because the whole point of the game was him supposed to finding Navi.
Yeah.
And then
guess we'll never know.
We'll never know what happened to Navi. She disappeared forever. But
I remember, you're watching, you see kind of Link on the horse, on Epona, just kind of going off, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's the very kind of subpar ending for a Zelda. Not subpar, I mean, muted.
It's kind of like how Link's Awakening ended too, kind of.
It's ambiguous.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, final thoughts, Mehrshad?
Overall, I'm very happy Eiji Aonuma decided to make a new game instead of continuing Ocarina of Time, as he was asked to do. I think he made a great choice. I think a lot of people can find in this game as their favorite Zelda game. I understand why. And I hope that new Zeldas borrow elements of the subtleness and uniqueness in the future. And I'm incredibly happy I got to experience this in my youth and my adulthood.
Nathan?
So, but Majora's Mask is still one of my favorite Zelda games, just because
favorite or one of the favorites.
I'm pretty sure it would be my favorite part to rank all of them together. I think it'd end up on top. But the reason why is because I'm a big fan of when they make good characters in any game. So that's what Majora's Mask had was the great characters that you can interact with. You can kind of get a nice intimate feel of every character's lives because everyone has their own schedule, and you can alter that schedule however you like based on what you did. So for the future, I'd like more interactions with NPCs to be more like Majora's Mask in that way. So then just having that kind of unique feel as we mentioned before, and being able to actually play as other races would be really nice too.
It'd be nice to have the mask back and or at least something like that to play the other races, because that's one of the most fun and things that stand out about Majora's Mask is playing as a Zora, playing as a Goron. I mean, I'll sort of my final thoughts would be I still think Majora's Mask is it's one of the best Zelda games. It's hard to say most Zelda games are good. So you always say one of the best Zelda games, well that's most of them, but it's definitely one of Nintendo's best games. It certainly stands out. I think they took a lot of risk on it, things that Nintendo normally doesn't do, and I feel like they paid off for Majora's Mask, and I like to see Nintendo kind of do that again more for Zelda. I mean, I think they're moving back in this direction. At least with Breath of the Wild, they broke a lot of conventions, so I'm happy to see that. Majora's Mask is a trailblazer for that, because it is still a very unconventional Zelda. It wouldn't be the first Zelda game I would give to someone, to be honest. It'd be one of the last. Play Ocarina of Time first. Okay, you got that.
Play Twilight Princess.
Here's the hard one. I mean, it's a good game, and I think it shows that Nintendo can do something perhaps a bit darker, a bit more interesting, kind of play with the player a bit more. So I'm interested to see more of that in the future, and hopefully that future will be on January 12th, 2017. Hey, I gotta bring in the Switch somehow. We just did a Switch. Haha.
Oh.
So, yeah, January 12th, 2017, Nintendo Switch will be, discussed further in Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
So until that time, we on the Big N, on our remaining episodes leading up to that time, are going to discuss what Nintendo needs to do to make the Switch successful. And the first thing we want to discuss is software. And I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about software when we should be talking about, a $400 console? Because that's the most important thing, right? I'm like, well, no, let's be honest. Remember the Wii U? Remember how no one bought it? Well, one of the big reasons why no one bought the Wii U is because a lot of people said it had a software problem. Anyone who Wii U knows about the long droughts. Sometimes 8 months to a year where no big game came out.
Yeah.
Third parties practically dried up after the first year it came out. And first party titles, we had a few bright spots like Splatoon or Mario Maker. But a lot of people would say the Wii U was a pretty forgettable console. Which is too bad, as we will discuss in our next episode. We'll talk about some of the better games of the Wii U. And let's be honest, the Switch, I will call it the Switch, it's not going to have the power of a Sony or Microsoft console. In some ways, this is going to be the first console since the GameCube where its selling point, so to speak, is not going to affect gameplay. Bringing it on the go is not going to affect how you play a game. It's just going to change the location. In other words, that means Nintendo needs to have some solid games. That's why people are going to buy this console. Yeah, there'll still be the odd person who's going to buy it because it's new, but most people, they want in because they know the games are coming with it. And so far, I think they're on the right track with Breath in the Wild. If it's any indication, if more games are going to be like that, I think Nintendo is going to have a good console. And I think they have to go back to basics in a way if they want to bring back fans. Luckily, they have lots of opportunities. Whether it's series like Metroid or F-Zero that did not get a Wii U game, or handheld series like Kid Icarus, Fire Emblem, or Pokemon that could badly use a console game, I think there's a lot of opportunities for the Switch to create powerful first-party titles that make people want to buy the console, support it, and pump a lot of money into the company. And finally, Nintendo also needs to continue to innovate and break down barriers, sort of like what they did with Splatoon on the Wii U. Splatoon was a Nintendo shooter.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't like any other shooter out there, and it certainly was probably one of the best Wii U games. Certainly for a lot of people, it really stood out. And I think there are a lot of opportunities out there for Nintendo to do this. I'd still like to see a Nintendo RPG, a JRPG, but done in...
Sessions.
That's not Nintendo. That's Atlas.
Xenoblade?
Well, the Xenoblade, yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see Nintendo take more opportunities like that and challenge themselves to sort of reinvent genres. I think there's opportunities there, and I think gamers would appreciate it. And I think a lot of people would want to see more games like Breath of the Wild, and certainly this would be a good step in Nintendo leaving the Wii U far, far behind. So today we want to thank Mehrshad for appearing on the Big N.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes. Good to have you back. We'll have you back when Breath of the Wild comes out.
Oh, I'm gonna be you'll see me on the podcast, and then you won't see me for like 3 months.
Alright, so we'll do our usual shout-outs. Main themes provided by Victor Zoni. Editors Kevin Nguyen. So if you have any questions about our podcast, please email us at TheBigNPodcast@gmail.com. If you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our channel.
I'm Mike.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Mehrshad.
This is the Big N.